So you'll be on GitHub, and you should have already signed up for an account. If not, you can do that. Basically, what you do is you're going to hit this plus button and create a new repository. So this is what you want to do anytime you start a new project. So later on, as you're working through the course, I would put every project on GitHub, because that is how other employers and developers can see what you're doing. So
Gotcha.
let's say, and this, what you put for your repository name is basically going to be your project name. So I'm just going to put workshop, today's the 6th, right? April 6th. And then have a little mini description. Workshop covering Git. I'm going to make it public. And then I'm going to initialize it with a README file, and then I will go ahead and create my repository. So now I have created a repository on GitHub, and I can now access this repository through GitKraken. So if I open up my GitKraken over here, I can click on this little project folder and clone the repository. Basically, you're just making a copy of your repository and putting it somewhere locally on your computer. So I'm gonna do, there's different ways that you can do it, but we're gonna do it through GitHub. So you just click on github.com, and then you're gonna choose where on your computer you want to clone to. So I'm just gonna click browse, and I'm already in my desktop. That's fine with me. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put it on my desktop. And then here you just choose the repository that you want to clone. So the one I just created was called Workshop April 6th. So I go ahead and click that, and now I can clone the repo. And it says it was successfully cloned. Do I want to open it? Yes, I do. So I'm going to click Open Now. And now we have our repository on our local computer, and we're accessing it through GitKraken. What this is, the master branch. So right here, there's this little check mark, and that's telling you what branch you are on. And basically, the master branch is that master file, right? The home file, what everyone can see on GitHub. So that's the master file.
Okay.
So if we go to our desktop, move this out of the way here, we can see it's right here. So I have physically cloned this repo onto my local computer, and now I can make edits to it on my local computer. So with the terminal, if you open this up, it starts off at my home. After like you click username and I select Cassandra Matos, that's where we are on the computer. So what if you don't know what's in the directory that you're currently in, you can do ls, hit enter, and it tells you everything that's in there. So you can see like all the directories that are in here. There are some files in here, but I want to go to my desktop because that's where my repository is. So I'm going to change directory, and you just do CD and then the name of the directory that you want to go to. So CD desktop, and now you can see here I'm in the desktop directory. In case I don't know what's in there, I can do ls again, and it will have everything listed here. So here I have workshop April 6th. So I'm going to go ahead and change my directory to that. Same way that I just did it for the desktop. And you want to make sure that it's typed exactly the same way. And if there's any spaces, like let's say I wanted to go to this workshop and there's a space, you have to put it in quotations. So let's say let's say I wanted to go to that other workshop folder, then I would have to do workshop 4518 like this. And you have to put it in quotations anytime you have a space in there. Otherwise, it's going to read that space as a separate file or directory. So that's why you see a lot of coders just have like dashes and everything, because spaces can get tricky. So we're going to go to the workshop April 6th directory. And now we're in here. And if we look in here, all we have is that README file, which is what we did when we initialized the repo. But we're going to be, let's say our project involves some HTML, some CSS, and some JavaScript. What we can do is we can create all of those files in one command through the terminal. And that command is touch. So touch is going to create our files. So I need an index.html file. I also need a CSS file. So I'm just going to put style.css, and I'm separating all of them by spaces. So that's where that spaces comes into play and reads it as a separate file. And then I'm going to need a JavaScript file. So I'll do script.js. Okay. And I hit enter. And if I do ls again, we have those files in there. Okay. So now I need to put some code into here, right? I'm ready to code. I have my files created. I have my repository in my computer. I'm ready to go. So what we can do is we can open our folder in, oops, wrong one, in Visual Studio. And there we have all of our files.
Right.
Okay? And if we go to, I'm going to just switch some things around here. If we go to GitKraken, we see that there are 3 file changes in working directory. So anytime you make a change to that repository that is cloned onto your desktop, GitKraken is going to recognize, hey, something new just happened. So we can view these changes, and then you can click on them individually and see what was changed. Right now, nothing pops up because I didn't write any code in there. But basically what this is saying, hey, you just created new files. So what we do in every kind of like big step that you make when you're coding or working on a project, you want to commit it. And basically what a commit is like a save point, and you notate that save point so you know what you did. Because there are going to be projects that you work on and it's going to take months. And maybe you need to go to month 1 and you don't remember what you did and why you made those changes. So that's why commits are very important. In a small scale project, it might seem a little bit silly, but it's going to be beneficial to you, especially if something goes wrong in the code. You can go back to that particular save point where everything was working properly.
Okay.
So I'm going to stage all the files. And basically what that means is that you're getting it ready for that save point. And then I'm going to commit a message. And that's just basically a note that you make on what changes you've made. So here I'm going to just say created HTML, CSS, and JS files. And then I'll commit those changes. So when you do a commit, if I were to go to GitHub and refresh, I'm not going to see any changes. Commits are kind of just saving all your changes, and then when you're ready to push, that's when everything goes back onto GitHub. So right now, all of these changes and saves are going to be on your local computer. So this is just staying on your local computer as of right now.
What did you press to get to the commit message when you were typing what you were doing? What did you click on to show that?
So when I make a change, there's something that pops up around this area, and it's in a like navy blue color, and it says however many changes in working directory. So I'll go ahead and show you another example. So let's say I write some HTML code.
Mm-hmm.
Get my skeleton going, and I save that. So I've made a change. Go back here, right here. It says one file change in working directory.
Got it. Okay.
And then you can click view change. And then if you click on the file, everything that's in green is what you changed.
Okay.
So even if you forget to commit, like, and that can happen. You can be in the zone. You're like, oh shoot, I forgot to commit. You can go and see, and then it will highlight everything that has been changed since you last committed. So you can kind of have a reminder of, okay, that's what I did. Let me go ahead and make a note on that.
Got
So
it.
then you go ahead and you click the stage file and then, you know, created HTML skeleton. And then I commit my change. So that's kind of how you follow along as you're working on the project. Let's say you add some CSS. Let's go ahead and add some CSS. Let's say I want my body to have a background color of blue. And let's pretend I made a bunch of CSS changes. Go back to GitKraken, view change, shows me the code that's changed. I stage my file and I say added background color. Okay. Now it doesn't have to, you don't have to do a commit for every tiny bit of code that you write, like one line of code commit. That gets excessive, but mainly like pretty hefty changes, like if you added styling to a page, right? Added CSS styling to this, to home page or something like that. Or maybe you're working on a feature and you said added sign-in feature or something like that. Those kind of chunks where you could go back a step. So the way that you want to think of commits is like, okay, if this all goes wrong, what's the last point I can go to where I don't have to do so much work to fix it, you know, and redo it, kind of situation. So here you can see, and when you're working on Teams, it will show the face of the person who made the change. So since it's just me and myself, you'll see me and the commits that I've made here.
Okay.
So let's say someone else jumps onto the team, right? You got a new team member and they are going to be working on the JavaScript portion of the code. So what they're going to do is they're going to do the exact same steps that I just did. We're going to clone the repo and they're going to put it on their local computer. But actually, before I jump into that, let's say I was in charge of the HTML and CSS, and now I'm going to go ahead and push it. And I'm going to push it to origin. And origin is basically where we put it on GitHub, the origin of our repo, which is on GitHub. So if I go to GitHub and I refresh, it shows all of the changes that has been made. And it also shows the latest commit on that particular file, right? So the last commit I made on the HTML file was I created the HTML skeleton. Last one on the CSS was I added background color, and last one on the JS was I created the files in general. And it tells you how long ago things happened. Right?
Got it.
So
Okay.
now that I've pushed that, I've made my changes, I pushed it, now I have a new member come in, they're gonna clone it, and they're gonna clone this version. So what they clone onto their computer already has all this code in there for them, right? Because that was your part. Now they're going to go ahead and work on their part. So this is where branches come into play. So branches are useful because you could be working on two separate things simultaneously with your team members, right? But you don't want your code to mess up what they're doing and vice versa. So you're both simultaneously working on the project in your own environment so that you can be sure that what you're doing works and they can be sure that what they're doing works. And then once both parties have everything working, then you can merge it into that master branch, which is that master file. So through GitKraken, how you create a branch is you right click here and you say create branch here.
Okay.
Okay. And then you're going to enter the branch name. So let's say I'll put JavaScript work. Okay. So now I have created a branch called JavaScript work. And if I hover over, you can see that there are multiple branches. There's the JavaScript work branch and the master branch. So I am now in the JavaScript work branch. So let's just pretend I am that other person who has come onto the team and I've downloaded everything and now I'm going to do some code. So I'm going to write some JavaScript code. I'm going to have to link the script file, so I'll write some code for that. And then maybe I'll write some code here. I'll create a function. And I'll just have an alert. And let's just pretend that's the JavaScript that needed to be written. So now this person has gone ahead and done their JavaScript work. So if we go here, we have 2 file changes in working directory. We can view those changes and we can click to see. Now you can stage the files separately. Like if you want to put a separate comment on the HTML file and a separate comment on the JS file, you can do that. So I can stage the index.html file, and then I can just say linked JS file. Right? And then I'm going to stage the script.js file because I did something different on there. And I'm going to write added alert function. So now you can see here that these changes were made on this JavaScript work branch. So let's pretend that everything's fine and dandy, everything works well on the JavaScript side, and we're ready to merge it into my master branch. Basically just putting in their work and putting it back into master, putting everything together. So how you do that is you just grab it and you hover over the master branch. Then this pop-up comes up and you're going to say merge JavaScript work into master. So there, this represents, okay, these were done on this branch, but right here at this point, after I did this, I merged it back onto master. So now you can go back to the master branch by double clicking on master branch. So wherever the check mark is saying this is the branch that we're on. And now you can push those changes. So now if we go back to GitHub, we have those changes here.
I see.
And this is how teams can work without interrupting each other's code and work simultaneously. So you don't have to wait for you know, whomever to be done with their stuff for you to work on your stuff, right? You guys can work together and test your code in your own separate environments without interrupting each other's environments, because maybe something they wrote that they haven't really tested out is totally messing up what you wrote, and your code is right, but their code isn't. So it's not interrupting. So they have the ability to test their code out and make sure everything's good and dandy before everything gets merged into that master branch.
Okay.
All right. So that's really all I have for right now. Of course, Git can get more and more detailed. So as these workshops go along, I'll get into further detail about them. But this is essentially what you'll need to get started, is at least at the first half of the program. And then once you go into project phase and stuff, you'll get into the more deeper details of GitHub. But on a surface level, this is really all you need to get started. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, it's a broad question with respect to GitHub itself. Is this a public application where anybody can see anybody else's code?
Yes, definitely. So if I can show you here. So here you can go to my profile or anyone's profile that you have. Let's say I go to a follower and I click on someone's name and they have these repositories, and I can click on one of them and then you can go and view their code.
Okay.
So this is an open source community. It's also, especially in recent times, a employer will come to your GitHub account kind of how people go to LinkedIn accounts to see your resume and all the stuff that you've done. It's kind of like a LinkedIn for coders, but at the same time, it's like it has a multi-purpose use, right? It can be a social network between coders, and you can like share code amongst each other. It can be a place for employers to go to see everything that you've done, or it could just be a place where you just have all your code and you're working with your teammates to create something. So it has a multi-purpose use.
Okay, is there a, because I can't see a professional organization using this for private software development projects.
Mm-hmm.
What is the equivalent of a private source code control management system?
It's GitHub. Yeah, you would do it on GitHub too. It's just, it's private. So if we go to my profile, actually, let's go back a few pages so I can show you. So right here, these in yellow are private, and they are professional organizations. So professional organizations use GitHub. 100%. Everybody uses GitHub. It's just you have to pay for the privacy. So it's not like a free account. You just pay it, and then it just they're just private repositories. Got it.
Okay, makes sense. Good. All right. I can see it's extremely useful.
Oh yeah, yeah. You definitely want to become best friends with GitHub and get familiar with it, because I can guarantee you any employer that you'll eventually work for is going to need you to be familiar with GitHub.
Sure. Okay. Definitely good to know. Thank you for that. Yep.
You're welcome. Did you have any other questions?
No, I think this is good. So I'll definitely go back to where I was. I do want to go ahead and cover that section on the lesson, even though I submitted my final project last night for the first course.
Okay. If you do run into any other questions, just feel free to Slack me or sign up for any of my office hours. There should be a link in your announcements. If there's not, please let me know. I'm updating all the announcements today. But I do want to thank you for attending today. And this is also recorded, so if you want to go back and take a look at it, I will be posting the link to it in the announcements as well by the end of the day.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
You too, Cassandra. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.